hopefully good. For those who are new here, hello, my name is Cheyenne, and on this channel we talk about true crime. Yes. I just wanted to welcome my new subscribers. Hello, nice seeing you. Thank you for joining us. And welcome back to all of my old subscribers. I hope everyone's doing well today. I don't know if anyone noticed, but I was not here last week. So we missed a week because I had a paper to write, and that unfortunately took precedence over this. So sorry. Not really. But yes, I am back, and today, obviously, like I said, we will be talking about another true crime video. And today's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a wild one. Well, I say that about every single one, so I say that everyone's a wild one. But today we will be talking about the murder of Sherri Rasmussen. This one's a bit of a love triangle, so without further ado, let's get this party started. So this story begins with John Rudden. So who was John? He was born in 1959 and started attending UCLA in 1978. And while attending university and studying mechanical engineering is when he met Stephanie Lazarus, which is a very hard last name to say. I always want to say Lazarus. Yes, he met Stephanie. She was also obviously a UCLA student, and they hit it off right away. She was studying political science, and they weren't necessarily dating. They had this on-again, off-again relationship where they would just hook up. From what it seems, it wasn't ever a serious relationship that they were in. It was more like a friends with benefits kind of situation that they had. And I mean, Stephanie was fine. She was a nice enough girl, I guess. There were some red flags that John brought up to his friends where, you know, he caught Stephanie taking photos of him naked while he was sleeping, which is kind of a weird thing to do, but she was taking these photos of him naked, snoozing. So yeah, he thought that was weird. And this relationship went on for a few years until they both ended up graduating. So John got a job with this hard drive manufacturer, and then Stephanie ended up joining the LAPD, and she got her badge in 1983. She became an officer, so good for her. And then in June of 1984 is when John ended up meeting Sherri Rasmussen. And Sherri was the director of nursing at the Glendale Medical Center. So yeah, they started dating, and things between the two of them started to become pretty serious pretty fast. Stephanie though, this girl she was not over the relationship. She was not over it. Even though it had been about 2 years since her and John were dating, Stephanie just could not let it go. And in 1984, Stephanie actually ended up throwing John a surprise birthday party. It was his 25th birthday, but she was completely out of the loop about this other girl, Sherri. Had no idea who she was, didn't know that he was like in the serious relationship. And not that it really mattered, because even when she did find out that he was in a relationship, Sherri would still write to John's mom, telling her that she was super heartbroken over this, and like, it did not matter. It did not stop Stephanie. She did not care that John was in a relationship with Sherri. She was still gonna keep on keeping on. So a year goes by, and then guess who rolls up to John's house? If you get Stephanie, you're right. Stephanie rolls up to John's condo to get closure, and they end up having sex. So let's just remember that John is still with Sherri at this time. So yeah, John seems like a great fella. 10 out of 10. And you know, John and Sherri, they stay together, end up getting engaged. You know, they're gonna start this life together. And none of this stopped Stephanie. Naturally. She would still, even after they got engaged, she would still randomly like show up to their condo together, even when Sherri was there. And this made Sherri very uncomfortable because she knew about their past. She didn't know about the cheating, but she knew about their past when they were in university. So Sherri thought that this was really weird, and it made her feel very uncomfortable. And then in 1985, Sherri and John ended up getting married. Now again, Stephanie did not give a fuck. She did not care. Stephanie even, like, after they'd gotten married, Stephanie rolls up to Sherri's work and is basically like, John's mine, and if I can't have him, no one can have him. Just being very possessive and creepy. And yeah, she's like, things aren't over between us. It's gonna keep on happening. So Stephanie is really starting to creep Sherri out. I mean, she's creeping me out and I'm just reading this, but she relates these fears to her parents. She's like, this girl is crazy. Like, there's something, like, she's just, Sherri was just like, something is not right. Like, this is not, the way that she's acting is just, something's wrong. She even told her parents that there were times where she would look outside and Stephanie would just be standing outside their condo in her LAPD uniform, just like creeping on her, basically stalking her. Sherri told her parents too, a few days before she ended up dying, that she thought that someone was following her. Can we guess who that probably was? So February 24th, 1986, John and Sherri have been married now for 3 months. And you know, early that morning, John gets up to go to work. He leaves the condo. And Sherri was meant to go to work later on in the day as well, just a bit after John was going to work. She was supposed to do the speech at work and ended up calling in and saying that she wasn't gonna make it. She wouldn't be there. So yeah, Sherri ended up staying home for the day. So then at 9:45 a.m., a neighbor notices that the garage door to their condo is all the way open, and Sherri has the silver BMW that was a engagement gift from John. The neighbor notices that the BMW isn't there, but the garage door is all the way up, which he thinks is a little weird. Also, throughout the day, John and Sherri's sister, I don't know if it was actually John's sister or Sherri's, I just read that it was John and Sherri's sister, so I don't know. But she would end up calling throughout the day, trying to get a hold of someone, and there was no answer. And then at around midday, there was a maid that came forward and said that she heard what sounded like two people arguing, and then she heard falling. So it was two people arguing and then a falling sound. And she didn't file any kind of police report because she thought it was just a domestic dispute. I'm sure things were different in the 80s. I just want to throw it out there though, that even if you hear a domestic dispute or it sounds like people are fighting, call the police, because someone could be getting abused, like, or killed. That's a thing. So it was the 80s. I don't know. I was not alive then. So John eventually finished work, obviously, rolls up to his house, goes inside, and that's where he finds his wife dead. She had been shot 3 times. And I mean, the place was a mess. There was broken vases everywhere. Furniture was turned over. There was bloody handprints. And it is believed that Sherri was shot through a blanket in order to muffle the sound of the gunshot. Sherri had also put up quite a fight. There were a lot of defensive wounds on her, and there were marks where it looked like someone had tried to bind her hands together. There were bruises all over her face, and then she also had a bite mark on her arm as if someone tried to like bite a piece out of her. And it was believed that she was surprised by whoever this attacker was because she was still in her nightgown. And so, you know, everyone was like, who could have done this to Sherri? Do you have a guess? The police didn't. Obviously, they believed like it had to have been a burglar. It must have been a burglar that did this. The police believed that someone had broken in to steal electronic equipment, didn't think that Sherri would be home, and when she, you know, came to see who was in her house, they were surprised and killed her. And then, I mean, the police believe that these burglars didn't intend on killing anyone, so they made a hasty retreat, took Sherri's car, and left, which is also why they didn't take any jewelry or electronic items with them. The only thing that was missing from the house was John and Sherri's marriage license. So the burglars were in too much of a rush to steal the electronics and jewelry, but they had time to steal the marriage license. Sherri's car was also found 10 days later, but The police found no further evidence from it. There was nothing in the vehicle to help them figure out who exactly had done this. So yeah, that sounds like some mighty fine police work to me. They figured her out. Sorry, being sassy. I mean, the lead detective did look into John, obviously because he's the spouse and that's usually one of the first places that they go. But he was ruled out quickly, and then John left. He moved away, probably to get a fresh start. There were also 2 men that had been breaking into houses and robbing people around the same time that this all happened to Sherri. They ended up holding this woman at gunpoint after she came home, and they were in her house like trying to rob her. So police believe that it was the same men. These men also were carrying the same kind of gun that had like the same caliber that was used on Sherri. So police were like, it has to be them. These men were never found, and so nothing ever happened with Sherri's case. So, you know, Sherri's parents were like, this is not how our daughter was killed. It wasn't by these random men. They went to the police and were like, hey, told the police about all the things that Sherri had been saying about Stephanie, and about how Stephanie was showing up to her house randomly and came to her work and threatened her and was like following her. Parents were like, you need to check this out. Like, it's Stephanie. Stephanie's the one that did this. Detectives made note of this, but really didn't look into it. Even though there was a detective that was like, hey, like this woman has a bite mark on her, and that's more of a thing that a woman does in these kind of cases. It's not really a man's type of thing. Like, normally women are the ones that leave bite marks on their victims. Police ignored all of this though and continued with their tunnel vision and were like, nope, this has to have just been a burglary gone wrong. And Sherri's parents fought this for quite some time. They would not give up. They even brought up the fact that someone deliberately tried to mask the sound of a gun, which means that this wasn't just like a random shooting that happened in a spur of the moment struggle. Like this, they're like, this had to have been an intentional murder for someone to even think about that. Because when you're in the heat of things, like, is that something that you're really going to think of? And her parents were persistent and they kept it up, and they did press conferences and they offered to pay for DNA testing. And investigators brushed it off and just told them that they're watching too much TV and that they need to just get over this and move on with their lives. And yeah, this is just really ridiculous and shady, because clearly the reason that they weren't looking into this, or, you know, opening their eyes to other like perspectives or other ideas of what could have happened and just closing it, is because Stephanie was a police officer. Like, that's obviously why. They were like, no, can't do it. She's one of us. Can't do it. And this is something that we'll see come up more in this case. So what was Stephanie doing at this time? Well, she was living her best life. She had a very successful career in the LAPD. She was moving up through the ranks, and eventually she became a detective. She ended up marrying a fellow police officer with the LAPD. His name was Scott Young. They ended up adopting a daughter together. She was very well respected and was thought highly of by many of her colleagues. And at one point, she even ended up opening her own private investigation company called Unique Investigations. Let me just sip water because I've had lots of coffee. And you know, for a while, that was it. Stephanie was living her best life, and Sherri's case went unsolved. No one even took a look at it for 18 years. Until in 2004, an LAPD criminalist, her name was Jennifer Butterworth, she decided to look into the case. She started using modern forensic techniques to relook at the evidence and just analyze all of the different pieces of Sherri's murder. And while looking into all of this evidence, she ended up finding some saliva that was thought to be the suspect's saliva from an unknown female. She started looking deeper into the case and found that Sherri's parents, again, were talking about this female that had been harassing Sherri for a while. And that's when she put 2 and 2 together. She was like, hey, has anyone I don't know, looked into this. Female saliva, parents saying that this woman's harassing their daughter and then their daughter ends up dying. Her colleagues are like, yes, the woman that you're talking about is a detective. And Jennifer later on came out and said that she was bullied by her co-workers into shutting up about it, ignoring it, and she actually ended up getting transferred. So nothing came of it until 2009. And that is when Jim Nuttall and Pete Urba decided to look into this case. And they decided that they were going to completely start from scratch. So they threw out the theory that this was a burglary, completely just fresh eyes. We're like, we're gonna start at the beginning with this. And I mean, one of their first thoughts when re-looking into this is that the crime scene looked like it was staged. They were like, this isn't a burglary, like it can't be. This is very obviously a staged crime scene. And they knew that the biggest suspect, the female suspect, was Stephanie. I mean, Stephanie was working a very good job at this time. She was working in theft, tracking down like stolen art and art forgeries. So it was this very like sought after, highly prestigious job that she was doing. And there were a few other women on the suspect list. Through DNA testing, all of those other women were ruled out, and Stephanie was the only one left. Surprise, surprise. So Stephanie was the only suspect at this time. Also, these two detectives had to be very covert about what they were doing. They obviously didn't want Stephanie to figure out what was happening, and that they were looking into her. And I mean, her husband's office was literally across the hallway from where these guys were investigating Stephanie. And so to keep this kind of under the radar, they just labeled her as number 5. They never gave a name. They just labeled her as suspect number 5. They started looking deeper into Stephanie, started digging around for evidence. This is when they found out that she had actually reported her gun stolen 13 days before the murder was committed. This gun just happened to be the same caliber that was used in the murder. And for some strange reason, Stephanie decided to report her gun missing, not to her own police department, but she reported it in Santa Monica, maybe so that people wouldn't find out. So the evidence was starting to pile up against Stephanie. And so these detectives started following her. They put her under surveillance for about 2 weeks. And then finally, while she was under surveillance, she was, like sipping on some soda, threw the cup in the garbage, and detectives snagged it, which is how they got her DNA. So detectives were like, we have enough. We've got pretty much all we need. But because she was an armed officer, they had to be careful about how they were going to bring her in. So they actually ended up luring her to the department headquarters by telling her that there was this suspect that had to do with art theft and they needed her to come in and interrogate this guy. They did this so that she would have to surrender her gun coming in, so it just made the whole situation safer. She rolled up, and then as the interrogation began, very quickly discovered that she was not here for an art theft. Yeah, and this is when detectives casually brought up Sherri Rasmussen.
You know my partner.
Hey,
great.
Hi.
Stuart, nice to meet
See you guys.
How's it going?
Good.
Milling around. Well, have a seat. What this is I didn't want to bring this up in your squadron. Oh, no, it's fine. I think we're good.
I just have to quarter to let me just turn You're gonna bring somebody in, right?
Yeah, well, I can explain the whole thing
That's
too.
fine.
I don't want to talk about this in the squadron because
that's okay.
I don't know who people are listening.
That's true.
And if we go to my side, everybody's always wondering what everybody else is
sure,
doing.
no problem.
Okay, but like we're talking about being busy and stuff. We've been assigned a case that we've been looking at.
Okay.
It's a new case, and reviewing the case, there's some notes to see as far as your name being mentioned.
Okay.
Do you know John Rutten?
John Bruton. John Rutten?
Rutten.
Oh, yeah, I went to school with him.
You did?
Yeah.
How long did you know him?
Gosh, I went to school in, let's see, went to UCLA in 1978 I started, and, you know, met him at school at the dorms.
Were you guys friends, close friends?
Yeah, we're very close friends. I mean, what's this all about?
Well, it's a case we're working on, and it involves John, and in there, some of the statements we reviewed, you know, there's notes and stuff that he knew you and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we good friends, lived in the dorms for 2 years.
You guys lived in the same dorm?
Yeah.
Or, oh, okay.
Yeah, Dykstra.
Okay. Were you guys just friends or anything else, or?
Yeah, we were good friends.
Yeah. Was there ever any relationship or anything that developed between you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we dated, you know, I mean, what's this all about?
Well, it's relating to his wife.
Okay.
Okay. Did you know her?
Not really. I mean, I knew that he got married years ago.
Did you ever meet her?
God, I don't know.
Do you know who she was or anything?
Well, let me think. God, it's been a long time ago. I may have met her. Geez. You know.
Yeah. Well, let me see. Let me ask you. You said you dated John. How long did you guys date?
I mean, are you guys? Is this something? I mean, you said I was going to interview somebody about art, and how you guys are.
Here's
I mean,
Stephanie. Here's the situation. Is basically, we knew that this when we saw this in this chrono that maybe there was some relationship there. That's what the chrono seemed to indicate, and we didn't want to come up to you at your desk and ask those kinds of questions or do anything. You know how up there people can see what's going on if you go into an interview room or people are in there getting supplies.
Okay.
So we wanted to afford you some privacy, some confidentiality to talk about this because we thought it might be, something, you're married to someone else, obviously, and so forth, and that you may not want to, talk about these things in that setting where someone, we don't want the rumor mill or gossip or any of that kind of stuff to start.
That's fine. I mean, God, that's been a million years ago. I mean, what year is it now? 2009? I mean, I graduated in 82. 82, yeah. We dated. I dated other guys. I'm sure he dated other girls.
Had you ever met his wife?
I may have.
Do you remember her name or anything, or? Or what she did for a living, or where she worked, or anything about her?
Well, I think I'm going to say that I think she was a nurse. I mean, I don't, again, I mean, what, I don't understand why you're talking about some guy I dated a million years ago.
Well, do you know what happened to his wife?
Yeah, I know she got killed.
Do you remember her first name?
Shelly, Sherri, I don't know, something maybe, like I said, it's been so many years, and
from all the years, as far as you can remember, do you remember ever talking to her? Just
well, I said earlier, I mean, I may have, I may have talked to her.
You mentioned a hospital, maybe. You may have talked to her at a hospital.
Yeah, I may have, and I'm like, why are you calling me if you're either dating her or living with her or married to her? Because I honestly don't remember the time frame. And I'm like, come on, knock it off. And now I'm thinking I may have gone to her and say, hey, you know what? Is he dating you? He's bothering me. And so I'm thinking that we had a conversation about that. One or two, maybe. I don't even know that I knew where they lived. That's what I'm saying. If I knew where they lived and I'd been there, if it was for something social, I would. And I can't see how many times I saw her face to face. He lived on Roscoe. Did I ever see her there? I don't know. I mean, I may have seen her at his apartment on Roscoe. I may have met her there. I mean.
But you didn't have any issues with her, right?
No, I mean, obviously, if he was dating me and dating her, I probably said, hey, pick or something,
Fair.
back
That's
then.
Fair.
I can't say that we ever screamed or, it's, I'm crazy.
You know, but you're always
You know.
kind of like real. I mean, you seem kind of bubbly.
Oh, I'm you know,
But-
people think I'm really hyper, but I can get upset, you know, and then I forget 5 seconds later, you know how guys razz you and you go, you know, I don't know, it's like I said, this stuff's been so long ago, you know, I'm sure as soon as I walk out of here, I'll go, oh shoot, it's 25 things I'll remember, you know.
But you'll call us, or I mean, you'll just come over to our desk and tell
I mean,
us.
I don't know what else you need to know. Like I said,
Some of Sherri's friends said that you and her were having a problem because of the John situation.
well, number one, I don't know who her friends are, because again, I don't recall if he did tell me where he met her. I don't know even who these friends are. A problem.
Well, that's what I'm reading, is that you guys had problems with each other and words are being exchanged, and it's all relating to John.
You know what? I can't say.
You can't say?
No, that doesn't even ring a bell. I mean,
it seemed like, yeah, you would recall something if somebody's
I
going off on you,
think,
right?
I would think. I would think.
Well, on some of the, on this case, you know, it occurred in '86, right? Detectives processed the scene, things of that nature. They did fingerprints and all that stuff. You know, you know the standard stuff. I mean, you've been doing this longer than I have.
Well, not about that. I got 26 years on.
Yeah.
Going on 26.
19, so. But, you know, as they processed everything, they did the best they could at that time, and they looked at a lot of people and different things in this case. And you're right.
I mean, if you guys are claiming that I'm a suspect, then, you know, I got a problem with that.
Okay.
Okay? So, you know, if you're doing this as an interrogation, you're saying, hey, I'm a suspect. Well, now I got a problem with, you know, now you're accusing me of this? Is that what you're saying?
We're trying to figure out what happened, Stephanie.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, do I need to get a lawyer if you're accusing me of this? You know,
you don't have to. I mean, you know, you're here of your own free will. I mean,
no.
you
Oh, I know, but
I mean, you're not under arrest. You can walk out.
You can leave whenever you like.
Well, you know, I'm trying to give you some background of, you know, how I knew him, and now you're telling me that somebody's saying that we had this big old fight, and I don't even know what you're talking about. You know, and I don't want to, you know, get in trouble for something that I didn't even do, or you're saying I did something.
Okay.
Yeah, we understand.
I mean, how would you guys like it if the tables were turned on you?
I understand. No.
No, that's what we're telling you. I mean, you're free to go whenever you want. If this makes you uncomfortable and you want to,
now you're starting to make me uncomfortable.
The thing is, I mean, detectives did what they could at that time on the crime scene. Okay, and the burglary thing you're talking about, that is an angle that they looked at. I go, but now we're looking at everything else on the case, because nobody was ever arrested on the case.
I don't know that or not.
Okay. Now, what we'd like to do is, obviously you know about all the DNA stuff and things of the nature that, you know, gets done on cases nowadays. You know, if we asked you for a DNA swab, would you be willing to give us one?
Maybe. Because now I'm thinking I probably need to talk to a lawyer.
Okay.
I mean,
well,
because I know how this stuff works. Okay, don't get me wrong. You're right. I have been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
And I wish I had been recording this because now it sounds like, you know, there's, you know, you're telling these people say I'm fighting with her, and now it sounds like you're trying to, you know, I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah, we know.
Okay, and now it almost sounds like you're trying to pin something on me.
No,
now I got that sense.
Well, what it gets to on these cases, and you know it as well as I do, our job is to identify and eliminate suspects.
I can't believe this.
So if we ask you to give us a DNA sample, a buccal swab, so we can identify or eliminate you, would you be willing to do that?
Maybe. Because I know this.
Well, that's where we're at too. I mean, because right now, from looking at the evidence, it's, you know, it's possible we may have some DNA at the location.
That's great.
And we're going to do what we can to try to put this thing together. And your name's in the book. These people are pointing at you for whatever reason.
I don't know why. That's just crazy. I mean, that's absolutely crazy.
And it would be irresponsible on our part not to look at it.
I know. You guys have to do your job, and I guess I'm going to have to contact somebody. So
That's fair.
I mean, because I know how this stuff works. I
Sure.
mean, I just can't believe it.
I mean, we understand that. I mean, if we were in your position, I mean, we would feel the same way.
I just can't even believe it. I mean, it's just, I mean, I'm shocked. I'm really shocked that somebody would be saying that I did this. I mean, we had a fight, and so I went and killed her. I mean, come on.
Well,
That's...
okay.
So obviously the gig was up, and detectives ended up requesting a DNA sample from her, and that's when she was like, I'm out of here. She tried dipping. She did not get far because they arrested her outside. So after her arrest, she was allowed to retire from the LAPD, so that's nice of them. Yeah, and she was held in the Los Angeles County Jail. Her bail was set for $10 million, and they set it so high because they were, one, afraid that she would run, she would dip out of town if she was given the chance. And also they were afraid that her husband, who was an officer, would try to steal a gun for her or steal weapons for her if she got out, and things could just go bad. So they set bail for $10 million so that she would be stuck there. And so the trial began in 2012. Prosecutors said that the motive for this murder was just because Stephanie was jealous of Sherri. She was jealous of the whole relationship. And so she ended up killing her.
Hello.
Get out of here. During the trial, John Rutten became quite emotional and, admitted that having sex with Stephanie while he was engaged to Sherri was a mistake. Good Sir also let it slip that him and Stephanie had started having sex after Sherri died. So truly an outstanding man. Truly, like, sorry, I shouldn't be so hard on him, but like, who does that? That's fucked. Like, what the fuck, John? Come on, bud. Make better choices. And so then the verdict was read. So Stephanie was 52 at the time and was convicted of first-degree murder. She was sentenced to 27 years in prison and will be eligible for parole in 2034. And that is the murder of Sherri Rasmussen. I mean, thankfully, they figured out who it was, and the family got the justice that they deserve eventually. But it's just unfortunate that it took so long, especially when Jennifer Butterworth, or whatever, that detective, started to like shed light on these things early on and was basically shut down and sent away just because Stephanie was a part of the LAPD, which is very shady. Also, I've heard that the LAPD is very corrupt, so I mean, we can't be that surprised, I guess. I just like don't get it. Like, okay, yes, so she was jealous, but like she didn't even end up with the guy. So what really, like, truly, what was the point? Like, you married someone else anyways. Also, John sucks. Personally, just my opinion, John sucks. So that is that. But I hope you enjoyed this. Stay tuned for next week. I have no idea what I'll be doing yet, but there will be a video, most likely. Yeah, and that is it. If you enjoyed this, then please like and comment, share. If you like me, enjoy watching my videos, you're more than welcome to subscribe to my channel. And yeah, that is pretty much it. I hope you have a wonderful day or evening, wonderful wherever the hell you are, whatever time it is. Hope you're having a good time. And I will see you all later. Okie doke. Bye-bye.